founder of our fair city 459 years ago. So let's start this whole blacksmith thing at the beginning. Did you know blacksmiths get their name from the metal that they work with, just like every other metal worker? That's right, blacksmiths are iron workers. We work with iron and steel. Back in the olden days, iron and steel were collectively known as the black metal. So the black in blacksmith is just like the gold in goldsmith, the silver in silversmith, or the copper in coppersmith. It just lets you know what kind of metal we work with. The smith part comes from the old English word smite. To smite means to strike or hit. Over the years, smiting gets turned into smithing to describe metal workers who hammer their raw materials to make things. So smiths are all metal workers. Blacksmiths are just metal workers who work with iron and steel. Now the blacksmiths who came here with Pedro Menendez back in September of 1565 were not doing any Hollywood movie stuff. Last time you guys saw a blacksmith in a movie, I'd be willing to bet you he was either making a sword or shoeing a horse. That seems to be the only two things Hollywood knows about blacksmiths, and Hollywood doesn't really know a whole lot. They packed up all the swords they needed back in Spain, right along with all the other weapons and armor that they knew their soldiers were going to need just as soon as they got here. So they showed up here with all the swords they needed. There was no reason to make one of those. The horses wound up walking on what you guys were walking on, sand. There's no rocky ground at all in this part of Florida. There were no paved roads constructed yet, so it would have been a complete waste of time shoeing the horses when they didn't need to. They didn't have time to waste, did they? They were working very hard to build a colony. But guys, can you build houses with your bare hands? No, you gotta have tools to work with. They knew that. They brought tools with them from Spain, but in the course of all this hard work getting done, tools would get bent and broken. They would have to be repaired. They become dull and have to be resharpened. If they couldn't be repaired or resharpened, new tools would have to be made. The bottom line is very simple. If the people doing the work don't have tools to work with, the colony's not going to get built, is it? So tools are one thing that would have kept the blacksmith very busy. Hardware was another. Did they have Home Depot 459 years ago? No, but they were building houses, so they needed nails, hinges, latches, hooks, chains, all the metal hardware and fasteners that we take for granted nowadays. Back then had to be made entirely by hand. Blacksmiths also make common everyday household goods. I'll give you one quick example. Who here likes to eat? We all do, don't we?
Yes, I do.
Before we can eat, somebody has to cook.
I love touching
The
fire.
only way they had to cook back then, you can put your hand down, buddy. We all like to eat too.
I like touching.
The only way they had to cook back then was over fire. But thanks to the ingenuity and skill of us blacksmiths, 459 years ago, guys, they literally did have low, medium, and high right there at the fingertips. That's called a cooking trammel, and that's what the knob on your stove looked like 459 years ago. So, to make all this stuff, they had raw material. There's no iron here in Florida, so they brought iron and steel with them. They also brought all the tools and equipment. The most important piece of equipment in any blacksmith shop is that hot fire called the forge. What I'm burning in there is not coal, that is wood charcoal. Now guys, don't run home and try to make a sword in your barbecue grill. Wood charcoal in a cooking fire will never get hot enough to work metal. That's why I need this big air pump called the bellows to feed it more oxygen. By doing that, I can get my fire hot enough to melt steel, but I don't want to melt it. I just want to get it soft so that I can shape it into things. That's why the fire is so important, because we have to get the metal very, very hot before it becomes soft and malleable. So, let's make something here real quick to show you guys how things got made back then. Now, I say real quick because in a 10-minute show, we don't have time to make anything big and fancy. So we're going to keep it small and simple. We're going to make a nail. Have any of you guys seen the nails they used back in those days?
Yeah.
They weren't round and smooth like the ones we use. They were square. And I'll show you why. Square was and still is the fastest, easiest way to get the job done with a hammer. First, I have to get my metal hot to make it soft. Here's how it works, guys. The hammer flattens the top, the anvil flattens the bottom. So 2 sides are flat. Quarter turn, do the same thing again, and now 4 sides are flat and it's square. To put a point on it, I only have to go back and forth on 2 sides to keep it square as I stretch it out longer and angle my hammer to bring it down to a point. Now I'm doing this really, really slow so I can explain what's happening. But look how quick our nail is cooling down. While it's still hot enough, I need to cut it down to the right size because that's way too big to be a nail, isn't it? Yeah. So we'll just strike in 4 deep notches. Being careful not to cut our nail all the way off. And then we got to put it right back into the fire. That nail's missing something. What's missing? It's the headless nail of St-Augustine. You can't hit the nail on the head if there's not a head on the nail. That's the bad news. Good news is, to put a head on a nail, all you have to do is hit the nail on the head. Watch it, I'll show you. You get the nail hot to make it soft so you can squish it with your hammer. Then you use a tool like this one. And there are other tools that we use, but I like to use this one because it's easier for you guys to see. To hold the nail so it can't move. So I'm going to put my nail in there. I'm going to break off the excess material, and at that point, all I have to do is hit the nail on the head with my hammer. I will squish that metal, and it will create a head on the end of my nail. It's just that easy. A little bit hot, just a little bit. That's good right there. Okay. So we'll leave up just enough metal here to form the head of our nail in. Lock that guy in place, break it off right where I notched it, take my hammer, hit the nail on the head. You notice I didn't grab the nail with my finger. That's because it's still hot. I like these tongs. They remind me of what nice guys those blacksmiths are. Did you guys know they didn't have dentists back then? Oh yeah. If you had to have a tooth pulled, your options would have been very limited. I would have been one of your options. You come see me and here comes. Now, did anybody have a question? I got a question for you. Are you guys headed to the cannon demonstration?
I have a question.
All right, you got 5 minutes to get down there right after I answer this young gentleman's question. Yes?
What if you pump the thing really, really fast?
Then I get tired and I'm out my battle. Guys, thanks for coming by. Y'all have a great day. Come back and see us.
Thank you. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.